be exploring how we can create practices that are not only effective, but also compassionate and most importantly inclusive. I'll be here to help facilitate audience engagement, so please feel free to be part of the conversation. I believe you can scan your QR codes to ask your questions, and all of the questions will be answered afterwards as well. So let's make this interactive and thought-provoking.
Alright, since the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen a surge in mental health awareness, but awareness alone is not enough. There's often a gap between saying we support mental health and actually implementing effective, compassionate, and inclusive practices. So, we ask ourselves, what does it mean to really build better practices in mental health? How can we ensure that our approaches respect the dignity, rights, and experiences of those who are living with mental health challenges every day? Okay, so to help us answer all these questions, we have an extraordinary lineup of panelists who bring a wealth of knowledge, lived experiences, and unique insights from different sectors. So, Davina, shall we introduce them?
So, of course, starting with Puan Anita. Hello, Puan Anita.
Hello.
Hi, super excited to be here with you.
Thank you so much for being part of this last but not least.
Thank you. I'm really, really honored to be here today.
Thank you so much for being part of it. Thank you.
Puan Anita is the founder and president of Malaysia, Malaysia. Of course, we all know she's a remarkable leader and advocate who has led the charge in creating safe, supportive spaces for individuals with mental health challenges. Not to mention, she is also the mastermind for today's conference. Through Miasa, Puan Anita has championed person-centered approaches, supported decision-making, and rights-based initiatives, striving to amplify the voices of individuals with lived experience and uphold their dignity. She emphasizes the importance of empathy, legal capacity, and support systems in recovery. Her work has impacted thousands, and we are truly fortunate to have her here with us today.
Okay, and next to Puan Anita, we have Tony Liam, or fondly known as Uncle Tony. Good afternoon, Uncle Tony. Right. Yes. Okay. So Uncle Tony is the founder of Food for You, a beloved figure in the community. Uncle Tony's approach to mental health is deeply rooted in meeting the basic human needs of those around him. He has dedicated his life to feeding the underserved, proving that mental health support begins with compassion and care for every aspect of a person's well-being. His insights will shine a light on the power of community-driven initiatives. I think this is very important, and we'll hear from him later how this basic needs will actually affect the well-being and mental health of the people around us, or the people underserved.
Thank you very much. My name is Uncle Tony, not because of anything else, because of my age. I've been going down to the streets for the past 10 years. The reason why I go down to the street is because there are so many families, individuals that needs help. Many of them are in mental disorder. My objective is basically just go down, comfort them and support them. But ultimately, is to break the cycle of poverty and illiteracy. That's the only way. Over the years that I've been doing, I feel that I can help these families, help them, take them off the streets. Many of you have not been to the streets of Chowkit. Many of you have not been to the streets of Pudu. Many roads and streets in KL. In the evening, They come up like doves, seeking for food, seeking for help, crying out silently. If we ignore them, the situation will only get worse.
Indeed. I think, yes, it's very important for us to learn today from Uncle Toby later when we go through all the different questions. And we really want to learn from your experience and how, we can do better and help these people. But before we move on to that, let's continue with our introduction, because we have the two panelists and we really want to get to know them. I think some of you might have known, like, Alicia, right? She has been here. So, but we still want to introduce her, and of course we have Dr. Hazli Zakaria as well. So, yeah.
Nice to have you here, Alicia. Hi, it was really lovely meeting you today. Alicia is a clinical psychologist and managing director of ThriveWell. She brings a clinical perspective grounded in years of practice. Alicia works with individuals and communities to build resilience, and her work has been instrumental in shifting how we approach mental health from a therapeutic standpoint. She will help us explore how psychological practices can integrate with community programs to create holistic support systems. Nice to have you here with us, Alicia.
And last but not least, as Kwame mentioned before, we have psychiatrist Dr. Hazli Zakaria, psychiatrist and founder of Alameda Healthcare, a true innovator in the field of mental health. Dr. Hazli's career has been dedicated to finding effective, evidence-based approaches to mental health care. He is a leader in the field, constantly exploring new ways to advance mental health treatment and policy. We are eager to hear his thoughts on how our healthcare systems can evolve to better serve those in need. Okay, so today's discussion will challenge us to think bigger, dig deeper, and envision a society where mental health is not just a buzzword, right, Divina?
Yes, it's not just a buzzword, but it's also a lived commitment. And we'll be exploring questions like, what does best practice really mean when it comes to mental health? How can we bring more empathy, understanding, and effectiveness into our policies, our workplaces, and our communities?
Okay, and we want to, as we mentioned earlier, we want to keep this engaging. So do remember to send in your questions. And without much further ado, we'll start and get into the important questions that we are here for today. Right. So before we talk about how to have better practices, what can be done, right? We want to talk about the current landscape for mental health support in Malaysia. Okay, so let's get a sense of where we are in terms of mental health practices today. And I believe our panelists, each of you brings a unique perspective, and we would love to hear your insights on the current landscape. So Davina, why don't you ask this question?
Thank you, Charlotte. On Anita, with Yasa's hands-on work, how have you seen the needs of individuals with mental health challenges change over the years? What does this tell us about the evolution of mental health awareness?
I think this past day and today we've spoken a lot about data and research. And I think what we are seeing being Miyasa is, and I'd like to talk about that, is because we're in the community, we are closest to the people who are struggling on the ground. And obviously we're uniquely positioned as well because we are people with lived experience, the majority of us, and the rest are care partners and mental health advocates, people who are passionate for the cause of mental health. And what we've been seeing is via the pandemic, of course this is the tip of the iceberg, but in line with the data as well, we see that there are more people seeking help, so help-seeking behavior has increased. We've also seen an increase in mental health literacy. A lot of our own peers and care partners have joined our programs, particularly our peer support group programs, our training, which falls under our flagship Miasa Academy as well. And we've also introduced our 24/7 helpline, as mentioned by Puan Muzalifa earlier today from Yayasan Sardabi. So this has been a collaboration for 3 years, 4 years today. However, the helpline has been in existence since 2018, and we've seen an increase in people calling up our helpline. So we have a 24/7 helpline and also a 24/7 crisis WhatsApp line. So if you're not able for any reason to, you don't want to talk to a human being, but you still want to seek support, you can do that via WhatsApp as well. So we've seen these increase in numbers. To give you a little bit of insights, our helpline, we're looking at an average about 1,500 calls per month. On the WhatsApp, we're looking at about 700 WhatsApp on average on a monthly basis. So just through that, we have seen how these patterns have changed today. And we find it very encouraging that people are open in seeking help, and people are open in seeking knowledge. And this is also translated with the number of followers that we have across our social media platforms and also our website hits. So we have seen these numbers increase exponentially, and we are very, very happy that people are seeking that help and support that they very much need and require, and those that are not affected by mental health or do not live with it are interested to find out and to understand, most importantly, how to be of effective support. So this is really promising, and we hope that through the visibility that we have provided via meaningful, inclusive collaborations and partnerships, that we are able to be a catalyst as well, and able to move forward together as a community.
Thank you, Puan Anita. As someone who, I'm a trained clinical psychologist, and I also see clients, and I know for a fact that Miasa's helpline has truly helped a lot of people. And it's amazing to see that support and amazing to have as well.
Thank you very much, Divina.
Yeah, so actually, listening to Puan Anita, it sounds very positive and very encouraging. But I have a little question for Puan Anita. Like, what do you see briefly are the gaps and challenges that still exist, as an NGO serving?
Gaps and challenges, multifold, manifold, shall I be honest. There's a lot. Gaps within, if really quickly, maybe a few things. One, being any NGO, of course, financials, right? We're still talking about unrestricted funds, of course, that's our challenge. Continuity of funds will always be a challenge. And I think striving to find funds to be able to help people, and I think one of the other things is also we do not have a sustainable model in the community. And I think that's one of the biggest challenge because, a lot of times in Malaysia, we are still very much within the medical model, although that's very traditional. We want to move away, of course, we've spoken about this. However, a lot of times when people are struggling, the first point of contact, people go to hospitals or clinics, and then when they go home, they have no support and help. So they don't really know where to go to engage, to get social connections, to find what's healing and helpful for them. So I feel these places are not very much available within communities. And like Miasa as an example, we are a drop-in center as well. We're a crisis management center, we are an activity center, we're a community center, we're all of that because we encourage people, if you have no place to go, please come to us. Even if you are in desperate need of help in the sense where, you feel like you want to end your life, there's other things that's happening, please be rest assured that it's a safe space where you can just come in and we are ready to be of support. And that does not mean that we're the rescuer hat and we want to solve your problems. We are just merely there to support you. It's truly 100% person-centered, so it is your decision. We provide full autonomy, liberty. It's your choice, and I think what is really important is you have full control, and what we do is we just provide, we introduce, we lay out the support services that are available for you and that you get to choose for yourself. Yeah, I think that's it for now, Shannon. Thank you.
Hannah, thank you so much for highlighting that. I think it's very important for all of us to hear that, because from an NGO point of view or like a non-profit point of view, it's essential to realize, there's always the financial constraint when it comes to helping people with mental health challenges. Okay, let's move on to Uncle Tony. So Uncle Tony, just now during your introduction, you already mentioned how a lot of people on the streets that you are helping are struggling with mental health challenges. But your organization, or rather your Food for You, what you are doing is, I would say, like, you're addressing their basic needs. Yeah, most of the time. Of course, you pay attention to their mental health as well. So we would like to know how does addressing these basic human needs essential for the mental health well-being of the people that you serve?
Yeah, as I would say, I go down to the streets literally every day. First of all, I want to thank Nyasa, Juan Anita, Dr. Hasley. Whenever I come across an individual who needs mental help, I will identify the person, and then I'll speak to Juan Anita and bring the patient to see Dr. Hasley. I've done that with a few others in trying to help them. As far as the general public is concerned, many of these families that are on the streets every evening and every day out collecting food, many of them are basically people with very low esteem, people with mental issues. They do not understand that whatever they are doing on the streets with the children is a continuity of the poverty that they are presenting to the children. So we are trying to address this by encouraging the family not to bring the children out, particularly feeding time or in the night. Many of them are on the streets, especially the kids, right to about midnight every day. So this is one of the issues that we are facing as far as the NGOs are concerned, going out to the streets to help to address the mental issue problem.
So, like, you're trying to help them in a sense, not just referring them, but also help to discontinue or help this issue to, what you call that, to be exacerbated and to be transferred to the next generation as well, right? Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think that is also something that, not everyone of us would think about, because the actions of the parents or the people around these children will affect the children as well. So,
thank you, Uncle Tony. Alicia, as a clinical psychologist, what do you see as the most pressing challenges in the clinical approach to mental health in Malaysia? Are there areas we need to shift our focus?
That's, I think like Anita said, right? All these gaps and challenges, shifting focus. We'll have a whole week to talk about it. But from where we're at Fry Well as a social enterprise, we're kind of in this intersection, right, of how we provide mental health care in a way that's more sustainable. So I think the biggest gap that we're seeing is the specialist services to the community-based services. So the question is, what's available in the middle? And particularly as a practitioner as well, I always struggle with the fact that how do I have that understanding of our service users in a kind of a complete picture. So there's always a lack of complete picture, right? Like, what is the system around this? And this is something natural for me because I retrained as a clinical psychologist, after being in finance, I think similar to Anita. So we always have a lens of trying to understand systems, right, rather than this individual. So I think with this gap in the middle is really looking at mental health from an intersectionality, right? Because mental health alone, in terms of the treatment or interventions, are much more effective when, for example, Uncle Tony, right, you mentioned, the basic needs are met. So I think really understanding the importance of the social determinants of mental health, right? How do we improve protective factors? How do we reduce the barriers that this individual or the family in the system? But it's a challenge for practitioners because we always have limited time. And time is money, right? Time is money. So it's always about time. Like how much time do I have with this particular service user? And this is, and I think this is something that I don't have immediate answers, but really I think in the retraining. So I think for Thrive Well, our team members are also very intersectional. We have mental health practitioners, social development, engineers, economists, because we understand that there's a whole system that affects this individual, and how do we ensure that it's like, unpack or understand all of these things to be able to develop systems that are much more effective. So yeah, I'll stop at that first because I think we have other questions.
Yes. So yeah, I think now that you bring in the practitioners, and you are the clinical psychologists, and you talk about systems. So we will move on to another practitioner, Dr. Hasbi. In your role as a psychiatrist and founder of Alam Mental Health Care, how do you view the current state of mental health care in Malaysia? And are there innovative approaches being implemented that's hold promise? Because yes, there could be many approaches, but what would be promising?
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Bonita, thank you, Tony, the two people that I respect for their work, and Alicia, of course. I told myself before coming to the stage, be nice, talk, be hopeful, because what you asked for me the question that you asked me, I have to answer honestly. Yeah? At this moment, the state of mental health care, the accessibility. People out there still are not able to differentiate between psychiatrists, clinical psychologists, counselor, spiritual healer, or they can differentiate because spiritual healer normally got much more higher salary than us. And people still come to me, oh, you are a psychiatrist, can you read my mind? I said, can, but you have to pay first. And then people still thinking like, oh, psychiatrists among other specialists, like we do not the real talk. And some of my friends just expect me to see their neighbor's daughter, boyfriend, and then expect me to see within 48 hours, but my waiting list is 2 months. People did not appreciate what that we do. And then they expect us psychiatrists still giving medication only. So, but some of psychiatrists do that. But the whole idea, we still far behind, despite the pandemic, make us realize, open up, there's so much in advocacy. During the pandemic, we worked together, but after the pandemic, what happened? We work in silo again. We do not know, how to work together, but we can do during pandemic. The pandemic taught about humanity, but after that we become robot, became a machine. So, I know the patient who went to see orthopedic surgeon after their broken leg being fixed, they can get datuk 3 months later. I'm sure myself, Dr. Kadri, and other psychiatrists won't get datuk shit because why? None of our patients will put in their social media that they've been treated by us and recovered and become a millionaire after that. So the whole aspect of stigma, still very, very thick. What happened to the psychiatrist medical officer? How come not many of them here? The stigma happened within the healthcare system. So we need to answer that honestly. Thank you, Datuk Narimah, another person that I respect the most. When you said that sometimes waiting list when you go to see psychiatrist is 2 hours and then you only able to talk to them for 10 minutes and psychiatric MO, and then you need to share with another 2 patients within the room. That still happens now. How to share about your broken heart with another person who talk about their problem also. And then after that become group, support group, Anita, instead of the consultation. Despite so many clinic, but the problem is too many patients. If I say that I'm depressed and then have suicidal idea, despite how much money that I have, will private hospital allow me to be admitted? The answer is no, unless I know the owner of that hospital. Because they afraid that I may jump and then ruin the reputation. We are talking about accessibility. Looks like, yes, go and seek help, We promote awareness, screening. But do we really have the accessibility? You know that how long it takes to see a psychiatrist in a public hospital. Dr. Hazraf is here from Seremban. Thank you, Dr. Hazraf, for coming. Dr. Hasdina, Dr. Ibrahim from Johor. Not many of us. Yeah? But in order to, how long it takes? First, we need to get a referral letter from the clinic kesihatan. You take 1 day MC, went to see the clinic kesihatan, and then they can come back, need to see the FMS, and need to do the blood test, come back in 1 week or 2 weeks, second MC, and then talk to the doctors, the FMS, yes, I'm not sure, then can you come back another day? Or if the FMS is very good, then make the referral letter. The third day, you need to send the referral letter to the hospital which have the psychiatric services. Not going to get the appointment yet, just to get the appointment, third day of MC. And then, lucky enough, 2 months later, you got appointment to see psychiatrist. If you're fortunate, or just a psychiatric MO, if you are lucky. Or suddenly, they cancel the clinic on that day. So, accessibility is very limited. Having said that, we have progressed. We have a lot more facilities. But we have to realize the investment is not there. This year, the World Mental Health Day is the time for us to make the World Mental Health Workplace as a priority. Still a priority. No, it's the time to invest. But we do not. So when I start talking like this, I become emotional. And then it's not because I'm upset or angry. I love KKM. I used to work in KKM. I used to work in university because I retired now. Not only Datuk Narimah retired, I retired also. But and then I start to realize in the private setting, we can do a lot together with the NGO without the red tape, the bureaucracy. It's not like I'm against the government. I is the government officer last time. But it's the time for us really to be honest, to be transparent, to really work for our patient and family, for Malaysia. We love Malaysia. Malaysia. So this is time for us, all of us. Why don't we have an open discussion after this? Transparent. Dr. Anne, the grant, please be transparent, like Yayasan Pandami, put in the website, everyone knows. Otherwise, it's only certain people got. And then people who are very innovative get the grant. Oh, no need to have them, we got grant, so many grants already. Not like that. Very transparent.
Right, yes.
So I'm sorry, Charlotte, when you ask me to talk, I want to be the last one and talk a lot.
I think, yeah, thank you, Dr. Asli. I think it's very important for us to address stigma, to address that gap as well. It's very, very important. Juanita, through Miasa's work, you've been tackling stigma head on. What have you found to be the most effective approaches for reducing stigma, particularly for those within the community struggling with mental health?
What have I found most effective via work via Miasa? Okay, I think the first thing is to be being very consistent in the work that we do. So be it when we carry out campaigns, we've run many campaigns throughout the 7 years. And I think one of the ways is, of course, leadership or co-leadership by people with lived experience. So via the campaigns, we get people to share their stories. And these campaigns are run nationwide, and we've been very consistent in running these campaigns. So I feel this has been one of the ways, because when you share your story, right, it provides a key to unlock someone else's struggles. So it's a very powerful way to end stigma, to end discrimination as well. The other thing is doing the hard work. Doing the hard work consistently, so that's consistently as well. The endurance of doing this work, it's not easy. Doing NGO work, it's blood, sweat, and tears. It's really, really tough, guys. It's really hard work. But we are experts in overcoming barriers. We're experts in using limited resources and making it work. We are also service providers as well, so that makes us experts as well on how to navigate within just what we have, right? And also what is really important in this work in ending stigma and discrimination is telling the truth. And this has been really an extraordinary platform these 2 days, because that's exactly what has been happening. We have very much strived to tell the truth, although sometimes it can be uncomfortable to hear. Maybe we're not ready to hear these things, but I feel very fortunate, very privileged, and I acknowledge this, to be able to be here, to be able to do this. And telling the truth is not easy, especially in Malaysia, especially in our culture. Kalau dalam bahasa Melayu, kita kata bila kita cakap, kita lapik 10 lapik. But the thing is, does it serve its purpose or not? And this is the big question, right? So it's very important to come from that mindset that we don't know everything, and that is part of knowledge. And again, there is a possibility of doing things, a different way. And so I feel that these are maybe some things that we have done that have been really successful, and of course engaging in difficult conversations, right? These conversations that we've had this past 2 days are difficult conversations to have openly, right? Because typically it's done behind closed doors. And I think one of the things that maybe I want to pull a thread from what Scotty said earlier is intimidation. Being a person with lived experience, right? Although I'm a leader, I hold a leadership role, but in a lot of the roundtable discussions, right, especially within psychiatric fraternity, within clinicians, even with the ministry itself, it can be potentially very intimidating. And I've sent so many people, this past 8 years, within roundtable discussions where they have found it very intimidating is one, but two, a lot of activation happens, right? They find it very triggering at the same time. Recurrence of episodes happen just being in such situations. So I have been very selective in that sense. It's not coercion, it is protection, but at the same time, concurrent to that, really preparing our peers to be able to be in such settings. And I'm very, very proud to see this past 2 days how people with lived experience have been on the stage. And like I said earlier, the majority of people that you are seeing on stage, either they say it or not, they are people with lived experience. So very, very happy to do that. So hard work, consistency, endurance, having difficult conversations, taking risks, being brave, right? This is taking a risk. I think what's really extraordinary about being NGOs is no red tape. no man's land. Really, we can do what we want, and it takes a certain leadership. It takes a certain person. It takes a certain community to be able to do this. A lot of people ask me all the time, Juanita, how do we set up an NGO? How do we do this? And even if, sometimes, of course, telling the truth, there's a lot of haters as well. And I welcome you, I challenge you to do the same work. And let's work together. And you will see how tough it is to do this work. But yeah, so those are some ways that we have been able to reduce stigma and reducing discrimination, provide justice for our peers, and hopefully one day complete the whole transformation that is very much needed in line with UNCRPD and the 2030 frameworks, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you, Juanita. Those are very powerful words. Sharing our stories as a community is very, very powerful. That is one way we can bridge that gap that Alicia was talking about, that intersectionality. We can bridge that gap and work together as a community. Alicia was just telling me earlier how, as a clinical psychologist, it's almost impossible to have one-on-one therapy with people and to help people on a larger scale. So how we can really bridge that gap is through community-driven work. Alicia, how can clinical psychology help to reshape the public perception of mental health? What role do psychologists have in educating and breaking down stigma, both in therapy sessions and also in the wider community as well?
Okay, I think Anita spoke about stories, definitely. Giving voice to the people who are living through the experience, I think that's an important part. And actually at Tribal, we've been inspired by Niasa's work. And I always tell my team right now, in whatever services that we develop or programs for our corporate companies, individual families, we need to have the person with the lived experience as part of the decision making, a seat on the table. Yeah, and I'm happy to share in our work with the PPR communities. Uncle Tony, I know you go to the streets. I went for the streets for a while. It was, I don't know how to do it, it's overwhelming, so I moved to the PPRs. It's another form of overwhelming situation. But again, with the PPRs, these are the P40s, right? I mean, that's, again, talk about the system, right? So this is where it's really important to have their voices first. Because so many of them said that, hey, when I go to a particular healthcare service, it's just like, here it is, take it or leave it. No one had the time to listen to my issues, my problems, and we understand they may not particularly understand the entire system, but somebody who could be the bridge. So they always say, okay, somebody translate, not translate language, just translate it in a way that's easy for them to understand. So I think this is where, when we talk about diversity, we always think okay, do I need to have a certain profile, ethnicity, age, or whatever? Actually, it goes back to how do we build the system, right? So at Tribal, we incorporate the trauma-informed care approach, and this is, again, a personal experience. I'll just take a bit of time to share that as a practitioner, I remember training in UKM, so I always look forward to always interesting cases, but I think Dr. Hazmi, I remember whenever the program, the questions are always tend to be medical, but we always highlight what's the social issue that this client is going through. And I still remember this particular service user, so many situations that this particular person is going through, and everybody was just throwing here, diagnosis, symptoms, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, Prof. was saying, again, let's think about this. Actually, this is the person who's down and out. It's the person that I'm told in the streets. Have we done enough to give this proper, is it work, is it shelter, is it all these things before we label this person, right? So, and everybody was stumped. Yeah. And I think that you always ask the allied health people what do you think. This is something as well, as part of the organization. This is a culture, because in hospital, I felt as a psychologist, small, my voice didn't matter. But for you to say, hey, after the psychiatrist meeting, you say, okay, psychologist, nurses, social worker, what do you think? So you advocating, that's an important step. And this is why in the trauma-informed care approach, we look at the service user and the service provider as equally important as part of the effective treatment. Because one is, how do you ensure you remove the barriers to the service users to access the services, so accessibility, and making sure that their system, their family, their community is supported. And two is the service provider, because the stigma comes from us as well. We also, after a while, we label, right? I mean, this is the reality. And we get burnout. I think the previous panel mentioned burnout. Because you see, sometimes we feel helpless. And when I first started in NGO, before social enterprise, we had to handle a mental health crisis of a Spanish volunteer who had the best insurance in the world. She could go to Prince Court any time of the day for whatever. And when she went through this mental health crisis, it was eye-opening for me because I thought the organization provided enough support for her, and she didn't disclose to us until it was at crisis point, and we knocked at all the private hospitals because I called Cigna Insurance, one of the best. We cover everything. Go to the private hospitals. No. And we went to the public hospital. There were some legal issues. So we were like, okay. She ended up at my house for 1 week. I closed down the center for 1 week, brought the team 24/7 care at my own home. But again, Dr. Hazki highlighted, this could have been a legal liability to you. I was too naive, I didn't know. And luckily, everything was alright. But that really questioned, my ability as a therapist. Again, I have a room in the community, but I'm not a caregiver. I'm not a lived experience. I don't have that ability. And even having 5 people round the clock 24/7 for a week, with a person having the best insurance in the world and not having access, it was heartbreaking for me. It took me 6 months to, thank you Anita, I didn't realize this, but at that time you gave me a lot of support to come back into work. But I think this is reality, right? Even money doesn't solve the problem. I think it's really what Dr. Hazmi mentioned. Money in the form of investment. I think investment by the policymakers, and also changing the culture. So both, like I said, the service provider need to have a seat on the table. Services, health services should be audited by people from lived experience. There should be at least 1 or 2 representation by those from lived experience in the development of the service as well. We do this consciously now when we go to the PPR. Before we do anything, we call them, do a focus group, and different representation from different people, because we know there's always different views as well. So it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work compared to just, hey, therapy, right?
Yeah.
But it is needed. I think we have to start moving towards that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think the highlight of here now is it's not just one party, it's a holistic approach. We need many different people. And of course, just now we talk about community and we have been talking about that. And of course, that brings us back to Uncle Tony, because Uncle Tony is in the community, part of the community, and he provides the basic needs for those people on the street. So Uncle Tony, I have a question. How do you encourage more people to take small actions? Because, we are the community. So what kind of small actions and how can we encourage more people to take small actions, not big ones, to help reduce stigma?
I'd like to share a testimony on this wonderful man over here. I got a call 6 months ago, 7 months ago, from a member of the public that there was a woman right directly opposite IPD Center. She was running around and she was mentally unstable. Believe me. After 6 months of treatment from this wonderful psychiatrist with proper medication, that woman today is my volunteer. She goes around with me and she is safe and she is fine. All this is possible. All this is possible if we allow ourselves, if we just stretch our hand a little bit more further to help all those who need a little lift in their life. Anita has been very, very generous. Miasa has been very kind. Every month, I have the medical team down in Chowkit. Can you imagine how many lives we were able to save? How many minds that have been so negative that we were able to turn them around? 4 months ago, there was a woman in Chowkit. She was on the 5th floor. She opened the window and she was about to jump. Here again, they called me. We went. We managed to slowly console her, talk to her. Eventually, she decided not to jump. All this is possible, made by people who care and wants to share humanity. All of you are here for one reason. I don't think you are here by chance. You chose to be here, to come and listen to all the panelists, to understand what you can do. Each and every one of you can make a difference in anybody's life who is down and out. I believe in that.
Yes. I think it's very important that we have highlighted that if we make ourselves available and we make ourselves willing to help, there's always the possibility to help and, being aware of the people around us. I think this is very important. And also, I think to equip ourselves with the skills and the knowledge. I would like to take this opportunity to talk about, just briefly, about Miasa's assist applied suicide intervention skills training. I think we don't talk so much about equipping ourselves. So when it happens, we don't know how to help. So I think it's very important to approach NGOs like Miasa, like Thriveworld, or even Uncle Tony, to learn and to expose ourselves to ways on how we can help people. Yeah? And that will, in a way, also reduce the stigma that we have. So briefly, Dr. Hursley, I think we have mentioned how, it's important for the medical practitioner to also involve other people in the process of recovery and also reducing stigma. In your experience, how can healthcare systems actively work to make mental health care more approachable and less stigmatized? Because I think you touched about this, but could you elaborate a little bit more?
Mental health is everyone's business. It's not just psychiatrists, not psychologists, not Ministry of Health. I'll give an example, right? Uncle Tony, if you did not bring that patient to me, I cannot treat her, right? So, that the whole idea, habit behavior is very lacking. So, there is no point we have a higher class facilities if the person did not come. And then, after we treat them well, recover, if this person went back to the toxic environment, to the family, to make them feel they are never good enough, went to see the bosses who are insecure and narcissistic, and then they will come back. They relax, and then they relax. Yeah, Dr. Hazli do not know how to treat this patient. But who make this person relax? I don't know, the system. So if we do not change that, how we might do that? So and then the doctors also, we are sometimes, as Dr. Kari said, too medically oriented. And then we get the diagnosis, treatment, medication. And some of our patients also refuse medication, they just want to be treated in this way. Please, in order for us to get the treatment, we need to be humble first, right? We cannot demand how to be treated. So it's of course important for the doctors to assess not just the diagnosis and then the medication, but more than that. I want to share this. This is how I remember. The pneumonia that I remember when every time I see a patient apply, I always tell myself that I can learn from this person. Every client that comes to see us, they need vitamin. What is vitamin? Vitamin, V stands for validation. They need the validation. They really need help. They don't feel embarrassed. V is validation. I is what? I is inside. Understanding the history taking to understand this person. Really, not just diagnosis. T, trust. We need to give trust. Establish trust with this client that we see. A is vacuum. Attention, acceptance, appreciation, and affection, and allowing them to be who they are. VATA. And understand the meaning of whatever they experience, the symptoms, the illness, the condition, they have meaning. When once we know the meaning, we know how to approach them. So VITAM. I is where the intervention. The intervention can be in the form of biological, psychological, social, and spiritual. After I is M. M is navigation. We have this person navigate into recovery, rehabilitate, and then can become the advocate. Not just stop at vitamin E and H. E is evaluation. And H, of course, like Dr. Hasbi. Of course, it's not. It's holistically. So that's what we are. So it's important we have this template. It's not just about client. It's not about patient. It's about the community. It's about the organization, the institution. We beyond label. Sometimes we are being labeled in the workplace, Anita, not just in the hospital. So if we really understand the meaning of beyond label, because we are, after all, we are just human. So with that, I think there is no way that we cannot integrate. There is no way we cannot collaborate, because we put our intention right. Because at the end of the day, for the benefit of everyone, including ourselves.
Thank you, Dr. Huxley. Very, very helpful. I think it's very, very important, and it seems to be a recurring theme. The key takeaway is the importance of community, the importance of the individual, the peers, specialists from every sector to take it upon themselves to ask one another, to reach out to the person next to you and to support them as well. Juanita and fellow panelists, thank you for becoming our voice and paving the path for us to speak up and get help. Stay the course, we are behind you. So moving on to two questions that we have from the audience to Dr. Huxley. Shouldn't psychiatric nurses be kind and compassionate? I've experienced the opposite of this, which is disheartening. How can we improve this?
The helpers, the mental health professionals are also human, right? What does it mean? Most of us, right, as the nature of human, always want to be better, because we are not perfect. That's why we want to be better. We always find ways to be a better person. When someone stops being a better person, something is not right there, because it's again the nature of being a human. Not just that individual, it could be the system, make them become like that. If the one who's supposed to serve, and then they do the opposite, could mean that this person already reached his limit to be the service providers. So who's going to help the so-called healer? They go for healing. They cannot. They don't have leave to go for healing. So some of us have no opportunity to do that. But if there are something like that, right, that's the indicator this person needs to take a backseat and review and then do something. They also need help. So for me, that is to realize that we need to do something, because they no longer be able to do what they love to do when they start doing what they're supposed to do. So for me, even as a carer also, if the carer start to be burnt out, not none of us want to scold our family members. Without that, even if the reason we also don't want to. I'm telling this story, short, because right now is the exam. My son, 13 years old, he told me that he lost his calculator for the exam tomorrow. And then when he told me in the morning, and then the exam at 2 o'clock. So, it's very hard to follow the theory, how to regulate your emotion. But somehow, I don't know, I managed where to get the calculator is mine. And then he apologized. So sorry. And then I know what I want to tell him, but I control myself not to. Because why? Because I still have some space with me to breathe and then to pause for a while. But if at the time I'm not longer have that, I may say something. But at least I will ask him, where do you put last? If he know where he put last, he won't lost that later, right? And then, so we will say something just to let out. And then I didn't say anything. But I'm going to talk to him tomorrow or a few days later. He's going to listen a little bit of 15-minute lecture from me. He's not going to, but the problem is that we didn't get that. But I'm going to have that ability to regulate. But what I'm trying to say is not easy. And that's okay, because we are human. But we need to try to improve, then they need to be supported. So basically, if we need to ask for help, please do ask for help. If you do not receive the help you need, ask another one. And then another one. If not, either come to Miyasa or see Uncle Tony.
Thank you, Dr. Hasni. I think that was really, we're only human. And one of the greatest things that we've seen with Miyasa is help-seeking behavior improving. And that is something that we can all learn from, to ask for help as well. And it's, the people that are there to help to support us, they're only human, and it is up to the community to help us. Uncle Tony, many of us, the next question is for Uncle Tony. Many of us want to help the community like you, but don't know how to start. What advice can you share for many out there on how they can help?
I'm actually very privileged and very humble. Today, every time I go to the streets, I have his son, her children accompanying me. Not every day, but they do come. I have students from universities, University of Malaya, UITM, Nottingham Forest, Sunway, and many other universities. I encourage the young generation, come and see. Open your eyes and learn. Life is not just a plaything. It's your responsibility. The previous panel was speaking out. As we age in life, the younger generation have their own thing to do. We, the old folks, end up in the house alone by ourselves. I'm trying to educate the young generation, particularly when I go to spots where there are hundreds, I kid you not, hundreds of elderly husbands and wives and ladies and men, hundreds of them queuing up for food. I cannot comprehend why. Why are these people here? The answer is the kids don't care. Because if the kids care, they wouldn't be on the street. So I'm encouraging, I go down to the universities, I talk to the lecturers. Some of them are very attentive. Some respond very positively. Some will look into it. But at the end, many do come. It is very important to educate the next generation. If we just leave them be, we will end up with nothing.
Thank you so much, Tony, for sharing that. I think we have heard so much from our panelists, and we have learned so much, and we have discovered so much. As we wrap up this engaging forum, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our incredible panelists and give them a round of applause because they have shared so much with us. And to all of you as well for your enthusiasm and participation. And today we have uncovered the powerful role that creativity, I think overall the whole of today, and the arts play in not just reflecting the realities of mental health, but also in reshaping the narratives that surround it. Yeah? So I urge all of you to use your creativity, to share your stories, and to work together to combat, to break the barrier of stigma. Thank you.